Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Tina Jha with News Tonight, where we get you the day's biggest news stories from across India and the world. COVID-19 infections have crossed 13 lakh in the country. For the third day in a row, infections increased by more than 45,000. India now has the third highest caseload and the sixth highest number of deaths in the world.
48,916 fresh infections in the last 24 hours pushed COVID-19 infections in India to over 13 lakh. 757 deaths in the past 24 hours took the death toll so far to 31,358. India has now over 4.56 lakh active cases. 8.49 lakh people have recovered. The recovery rate is 63.53%, while the case fatality rate is 2.34%. Over 1.58 crore samples have been tested so far, including 4.2 lakh tests for the first time on Friday. India is conducting 11,485 tests per million. The 5 states with the biggest 24-hour jump in cases are Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and Uttar Pradesh. As the cases increase, the centre has directed Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Telangana, Odisha, West Bengal, Assam, Karnataka, Jharkhand and Uttar Pradesh to ramp up testing with a special focus on containment zones. Cases in these 9 states are growing at a very fast pace. In the last 1 week, Andhra Pradesh has contributed more novel coronavirus cases than any other state in India except Maharashtra. Andhra Pradesh has added more than 40,000 new patients, which is half of its entire caseload of about 81,000. Cases in neighbouring Telangana are growing, with Hyderabad being the worst affected. The state has over 54,000 cases. 472 people have died so far. Meanwhile, Karnataka, where daily growth rate had reached as high as 8.82% on 4th of July, is witnessing a decrease in the growth rate. But despite this, the state is reporting 5,000 cases on an average. Capital Bengaluru remains the worst hit. The state has a caseload of over 85,000 cases. Bihar is also reporting a surge in cases this month. The state has over 34,000 cases, out of which over 10,000 cases have been added in the last 10 days. About 70% of the total has been detected in July. Odisha, meanwhile, is contributing over 1,000 cases for the last 2 days. The state reported close to 1,600 new cases on Friday. New cases are spread over 28 districts, but the highest 732 cases were reported from hotspot Ganjam district. West Bengal has a caseload of close to 55,000. More than 75% new cases and 31 of the 34 latest deaths were reported from the epicenter of the infection, Kolkata, and its adjoining districts, Howrah, 24 Parganas and Hooghly. Assam is the worst affected state in the northeast. There are over 30,000 cases in the state. Jharkhand has over 7,500 confirmed cases. Over 2.5 lakh people are in home quarantine. Uttar Pradesh recorded its highest single-day jump of 2,667 new cases in the past 24 hours, taking the total number of positive cases to 60,771. COVID-related deaths also saw the highest single-day jump of 50, taking the toll to 1,348 in the state. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Amidst the surge in cases, the race for an Indian vaccine continues. The All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Delhi, on Friday administered the first dose of Bharat Biotech's Covaxin to a 30-year-old male. The subject will be monitored for 2 weeks, after which he will be given the second dose. At least 7 Indian pharmaceutical companies are working on the coronavirus vaccine in India. These firms are Bharat Biotech, Serum Institute, Zydus Cadila, Panacea Biotech, Indian Immunologicals, Minvax and Biological E. Bharat Biotech and Zydus were granted permission for phase 1 and 2 clinical trials, after which they administered the first doses of their vaccine candidates to volunteers on 15 July. Human trials using the vaccine candidates of 2 companies, Bharat Biotech and Zydus Cadila, are currently on in 6 cities. Bharat Biotech's Covaxin is an inactivated vaccine which is made using particles of the COVID-19 virus that were killed so that they would not be able to infect or replicate in those injected with it. According to the company, injecting particular doses of these particles serves to build immunity by helping the body create antibodies against the dead virus. Covaxin, which has been developed in collaboration with the Indian Council of Medical Research and the National Institute of Virology, will be tested at 12 institutes. Zydus Cadila's ZyCoV-D is a plasmid DNA vaccine. DNA vaccines use genetically engineered plasmids, a type of DNA molecule, that are coded with the antigen, a toxin or substance given off by the virus, against which the immune response is to be built. The DNA sequence injected would match that of the virus, helping the body build antibodies against it. Testing of Zydus's ZyCoV-D is limited to its research center in Gujarat's Ahmedabad as of now. In phase 1, the vaccine will be tested on 375 volunteers. Healthy people who are between 18 to 55 years old and do not have any comorbid conditions will be selected. The second phase of the trial will be conducted on 750 volunteers. For the second phase of trial, people aged between 12 to 65 will be enrolled. Vaccines follow a testing process of 4 stages, starting with preclinical tests and ending with phase 3 studies conducted on thousands of patients. After approval from the regulator, the firm has to continue monitoring the use of its vaccine on the patients. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
India's drug regulator has cancelled the rapid diagnostic kit import licenses of 3 firms and suspended that of 16 others, saying the US FDA has removed the manufacturers from their list of coronavirus serology test kits with directions that they should not be distributed.
The 3 firms whose licenses were cancelled are Cadila Healthcare, MDAC International and NW Overseas. The 16 companies include TransAsia Biomedicals, Cosmic Scientific, InBios India, SD Biosensor, Accuris Biomedicals, Biohouse Solutions and Trivitron Healthcare. All companies were issued show cause notices on 17th of July asking why their import licenses shall not be cancelled, since the US FDA had removed their diagnostic kits with direction that it should not be distributed, according to an official order by the Drug Controller General of India. The companies were directed to submit their reply by 20th of July, failing which it would be presumed that they have nothing to say in the matter and action deemed fit will be initiated under the provisions of the Drugs and Cosmetics Act.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi reviewed the implementation of the Prime Minister's Swanidhi scheme of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs on Saturday.
Prime Minister Modi expressed satisfaction on use of the end-to-end IT solution through a web portal and mobile app for administration of the scheme that ensures transparency, accountability and speed. The Prime Minister said the scheme should be seen as part of an outreach to the street vendors for their holistic development and economic upliftment. The scheme has been launched by the centre to provide working capital loan up to 10,000 rupees to 50 lakh street vendors to enable them to resume their livelihoods which were hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. Under the scheme, over 2.6 lakh applications have been received so far. Out of these, over 64,000 have been sanctioned and loans have been disbursed to over 5,500 people.
The World Health Organization on Saturday reported a record single-day rise of 284,196 cases of COVID-19 globally.
The global novel coronavirus cases are approaching 16 million with over 6.4 lakh deaths. The United States registered nearly 75,000 new cases in the past 24 hours, bringing its total tally to over 4.3 million. Mexico reported 7,573 new COVID-19 infections, adding to a nationwide total of 378,285 cases. Deaths rose above 42,000. Testing has been ramped up in areas under red alert for infections. Latin America had over 4.2 million COVID-19 cases on Friday. 2.35 million of them were in Brazil. Sao Paulo, Brazil's worst affected region, extended quarantine measures until August 10th following an infection spike. Some European countries tightened control measures amid the spike of COVID-19 infections. France saw over 1,000 new COVID-19 cases overnight, prompting authorities to reinforce restrictions. From August 1st, the country will conduct COVID-19 tests on travelers arriving from 16 red zone countries, including America. Germany will also test people returning from high-risk countries for coronavirus. Spain registered 922 new cases on Friday, 298 from the Aragon region. Catalonia recorded 133 cases, while Madrid had 107. Several regions tightened restrictions on late-night leisure activities following recent outbreaks. On Friday, Austria mandated masks in public places, including banks, supermarkets, and post offices. It also tightened border controls. Travelers arriving from high-risk countries now need to undergo coronavirus tests and follow a 14-day quarantine. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has warned of tough times ahead in dealing with the virus and its economic fallout.
However it emerged, it's been a very, very nasty thing for the human race. And I think that by the middle of next year, we will be well on the way. We will be well on the way past it. But I must be clear with people. I do still think that we have tough times ahead in keeping this virus under control, and we have tough times ahead in coming through economically.
Japan recorded 700 coronavirus infections in a day with nearly 1,000 deaths. South Korea had 113 new virus cases on Saturday. Its caseload is over 14,000 with 298 deaths. Coronavirus cases continue to rise in Australia's Victoria state with 357 new cases reported on Saturday. The state has introduced new directives for aged care homes, limiting the number of visitors, mandatory protective gear for staff, and a program of asymptomatic testing.
In some other news, Rajya Sabha Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu has reconstituted the panel of Vice Chairmen. First-time members of Parliament Sashmit Patra and L. Hanumantaiah are among the 6 parliamentarians nominated by the Chairman for the panel. Rajya Sabha Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu has reconstituted the panel of Vice Chairmen with effect from 24 July 2020. In the absence of the Chairman and the Deputy Chairman, one of them presides over the House. While nominating members to the panel, the Chairman usually gives consideration to the strength of various parties in the House. The members on the Vice Chairman panel include Bhuvaneshwar Kalita of the BJP, Vandana Chavan of the NCP, Sukhendu Shekhar Roy of the Trinamool Congress, Surendra Singh Nagar of the BJP, Dr. L. Hanumantaiah of the Congress Party, and Dr. Sashmit Patra of the BJD. The Vice President of India is the ex officio Chairman of the Rajya Sabha who presides over its sessions. The Deputy Chairman, elected from amongst the House's members, takes care of the day-to-day matters of the House in the absence of the Chairman. The Chairman shall, from time to time, nominate from amongst the members of the Council a panel of not more than 6 Vice Chairmen, any one of whom may preside over the Council in the absence of the Chairman and the Deputy Chairman when so requested by the Chairman or in his absence by the Deputy Chairman. A Vice Chairman nominated shall hold office until a new panel of Vice Chairmen is nominated. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV. Nath Kovind, the 14th President of India, completed 3 years in office on Saturday. The Rashtrapati Bhavan noted that during the year, President Kovind guided the country in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic and has met nearly 7,000 people, including soldiers and scientists. President Nath Kovind completed 3 years in office on Saturday. In view of the coronavirus pandemic, President Kovind, along with the First Lady and other family members, used the occasion to join fellow citizens in expressing their gratitude towards all those who are safeguarding the health of the country in spite of the grave risk to them and their families. A Rashtrapati Bhavan communique stated,
President Kovind had donated 1 month's salary to the PM Cares Fund and also decided to forego 30% of his salary for a year to contribute to the fight against the pandemic. From July 2019 to July 2020, the President hosted 9 state visits and heads of state. He has hosted heads of state from the US, Sri Lanka, Zambia, Brazil, Sweden, Mongolia, Netherlands, Portugal and Myanmar, and received 15 global leaders from 5 continents. Besides this, for the first time in history of Rashtrapati Bhavan, credentials were also presented through video conferencing due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In these 3 years, the President gave assent to 48 bills of the Union Government and 22 bills of the state governments, while 13 ordinances were promulgated by the President and 11 governors of states were appointed. President Kovind visited 9 states and 4 union territories in the 3rd year of his presidency. He addressed 9 convocations across India, including IIT Roorkee, Jamia Millia Islamia and the Sikkim University. Taking a step towards a greener environment, plastic bottles were banned in Rashtrapati Bhavan and glass bottles were promoted in official meetings and state functions. Highlighting details of a more accessible Rashtrapati Bhavan, the Communique said over 1 lakh people visited it since 25th July 2019. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu greeted President Kovind on completion of 3 eventful years in office and said it's been a wonderful experience working with him for the development of the nation. The Vice President also said that President Kovind epitomizes the qualities of nobility and humility and has enhanced the dignity of the office of the President of India. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Railway Minister Piyush Goyal on Saturday reviewed steps to promote Make in India products by local vendors in the procurement process of the Indian Railways. The move will give a boost to Atmanirbhar Bharat mission.
During the meeting, Goyal underscored measures to generate confidence in the industry through a corruption-free and transparent procurement environment of Indian Railways. Steps to procure through government e-market, GEM, and creating a helpline number for the vendors were also discussed. Piyush Goyal emphasized the need to procure railways goods worth 70,000 rupees on GEM platform to open up the market even at remote places and especially MSMEs. It was also decided that railways would work towards a user-friendly single-step vendor web-based interface for all its activities.
The Indian Air Force commanders deliberated on a 10-year roadmap to enhance India's aerial prowess in order to confront emerging threats and adversaries, especially on the northern and western fronts.
At a 3-day brainstorming conference in New Delhi, top Indian Air Force commanders held detailed deliberations on the border row with China in eastern Ladakh. They also discussed key short-term and long-term security challenges facing the country and on the complex geopolitical power play in India's neighborhood. Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal R.K.S. Bhadauria, emphasized the need for rapid capacity building, increase in serviceability of all assets, and dedicated work towards effective integration of new technologies in the shortest time frames. The Air Chief Marshal also spoke about Vision 2030 for the force and laid down milestones to transform it in the coming decade, stating that it's important to recognize the nature of emerging threats in a rapidly changing world. The commanders also reviewed operational preparedness and strategies to counter security threats across the entire spectrum. Deliberations also focused on the deployment of the first batch of 6 Rafale jets in the Ladakh sector by next month. The aircraft are set to join the Indian Air Force fighter fleet by the 29th of July. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh inaugurated the IAF Commanders Conference on the 22nd of July.
The government has notified new rules and regulations for e-commerce companies under the Consumer Protection Act 2019.
It has made it mandatory for sellers to display the country of origin on their products, stating that any non-compliance will attract penal action. The Consumer Protection E-Commerce Rules 2020 were notified on Thursday. The new rules will apply to all electronic retailers registered in India or abroad but offering goods and services to Indian consumers. The new norms protect consumer rights by establishing authorities for timely and effective administration and settlement of consumers' disputes. They also empowered the centre to act against any unfair trade practices in e-commerce and direct selling, while requiring e-retailers to facilitate easy returns, address consumer grievances and prevent discriminating against merchants on their platforms. According to the new rules, the e-commerce players will have to display the price of goods and services offered for sale along with the breakup of other charges. They are also required to mention the expiry date of goods offered for sale. Also, entities are not allowed to impose cancellation charges for orders cancelled. The new rules mandate that marketplaces as well as sellers would be required to have grievance officers who have to respond in a time-bound manner.
Amid the ongoing political crisis in the state, Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot on Saturday called a meeting of his Council of Ministers.
The meeting held late in the afternoon was the second in less than 12 hours. A proposal to call a session of the State Assembly was reworked at the meet. This proposal will be given to Governor Kalraj Mishra. This came after Congress MLAs loyal to Gehlot held a 5-hour sit-in at the Raj Bhavan on Friday to press for an assembly session. However, Governor Kalraj Mishra has said that he will go by the constitutional provisions on summoning a session. The governor has sought a reply on 6 points from the state government over the matter. Chief Minister Gehlot says his government would approach President Nath Kovind if the deadlock continues. The Ashok Gehlot-led government, which is facing a political crisis after rebellion by 19 dissident Congress MLAs, including sacked Deputy Chief Minister Sachin Pilot, wants the session to be held to prove its majority.
In a new development in the Kerala gold smuggling case, the National Investigation Agency has recovered around 1 crore rupees in cash and 1 kg of gold from bank lockers belonging to the accused Swapna Suresh.
However, Swapna Suresh's counsel stated that she received the money and gold as gifts. NIA, however, says that during preliminary interrogation, Swapna Suresh had told investigators that she stored the proceeds from the smuggling racket in her bank lockers. A special NIA court on Friday placed Swapna Suresh and her co-accused Sandeep Nair and Sarit Pierce in judicial custody till 21st of August. The court will consider the bail petitions of Swapna Suresh and Sandeep Nair on 5th of August. Swapna Suresh, Sarit Pierce and Sandeep Nair are being investigated in connection with the smuggling of 30 kgs of gold worth 14.82 crore rupees in the garb of diplomatic baggage, which was busted by customs in Thiruvananthapuram.
And talking now about the flood fury in Assam and Bihar. President Nath Kovind spoke to Assam Chief Minister Sarbanand Sonowal over the flood situation and expressed solidarity with those affected by the deluge.
The flood situation in Assam remains critical, with 3 more persons getting killed. With this, the total number of people who have died in the floods and landslides has gone up to 122, while nearly 28 lakh people are affected in 26 districts of the state. Currently, 2,543 villages are underwater. 496 relief camps and distribution centers are being run across 22 districts where over 50,000 people have taken shelter. The Brahmaputra is flowing above the danger mark in Guwahati, Dhubri and Gwalpara. In Bihar, floods have claimed at least 10 lives and have left nearly 10 lakh people affected. More than 1 lakh people have been evacuated by NDRF and SDRF. Darbhanga has the largest number of people hit by the floods, with 3,46,000 people affected, while West Champaran reported most number of deaths. Other districts affected by the floods include East Champaran, Shivhar, Supaul, Kishanganj, Muzaffarpur, Gopalganj and Khagadia.
दिन में बिहार में 10 जिले हमारे बाढ़ से प्रभावित हैं और इसमें लगभग 10 लाख लोग जो जनसंख्या है वो प्रभावित है और मुख्य रूप से अभी 3 टाइप के ऑपरेशंस हम लोग कर रहे हैं। पहला, इन सभी जिलों में पर्याप्त संख्या में नेशनल डिजास्टर रिस्पांस फोर्स तथा स्टेट डिजास्टर रिस्पांस फोर्स की टीम प्रतिनियुक्त है। अभी हम लोग इवैक्यूएशन कर रहे हैं, राहत शिविर में रख रहे हैं और कम्युनिटी किचन भी पैरेलल चल रहा है। और वो इलाके जो हमारे बुरी तरह से प्रभावित हैं, तो पिछले साल बिहार में हम लोगों ने डीबीटी के माध्यम से जो जीआर होता है, ग्रेटिट्यूअस रिलीफ, वो 6,000 रुपया वो हम लोग सीधे लाभान्वितों के अकाउंट में देते हैं। तो उसकी भी तैयारी हमारी चल रही है।
A total of 22 teams of the National Disaster Response Force and State Disaster Response Force are involved in relief and rescue operations. 12,000 people have taken shelter at 22 relief camps, while 271 community kitchens are catering to about 1.5 lakh people. East Central Railways have suspended movement between Darbhanga and Samastipur due to the floods.
इतने चढ़ा हुआ है। हाँ। मतलब सब में इतना पानी।
इतना पानी है।
हाँ, सब में।
तो आप लोग कहाँ जा रहे हैं?
बांध पर जा रहे हैं।
बांध पे रहेंगे?
जी जी।
माल मवेशी
सब कुछ चल गया।
अपने जान जोखिम में डाल के माल मवेशी जो भी है पानी में तैरा के ऊपर बांध पे लेके आ रहे हैं, और जो कुछ रूखा सूखा मिलता है कभी खाते हैं, कभी ऐसे भी सोना पड़ता है।
India will celebrate the Kargil Vijay Divas on the 26th of July. It was on this day 21 years ago that the Indian Army recaptured all the Indian posts in Kargil that had been occupied by Pakistani infiltrators.
On July 26, 1999, the Indian Army recaptured all Indian posts in Kargil that had been occupied by Pakistani infiltrators. The day commemorates the success of Operation Vijay, which was launched by the Indian Army. On Saturday, the Indian Army told the country what happened a day before Operation Vijay achieved ultimate success. The Army posted on Twitter that on June 25, 1999, the Indian Army launched a daring attack at Zulu Top in Musco Valley. Undaunted courage and unflinching determination of our troops led to successful capture of the objective. Remembering the Kargil war heroes who gave their lives for the country, the Army tweeted, and I quote, "Operation Vijay is a saga of courage, valor and sacrifice of brave soldiers of the Indian Army. 26th July will be remembered for the determination and daring leadership and raw courage of our soldiers." The Kargil War was one of the most prominent wars and hard-fought victories for the Indian Armed Forces. Fought between May and July 1999, Operation Vijay was the code name given to India's offensive against Pakistan to flush out infiltrators. Indian soldiers fought the Kargil War under the toughest conditions, on difficult terrain and at an altitude of 18,000 feet. 527 Indian soldiers were martyred in the war. In the history of independent India, the Kargil War will be remembered as the fiercest and most valiant operation conducted by the Indian Army. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
So that's it from us in this bulletin. Thank you for your time. Take care of yourselves and your families. Good night.